guys. All right, today we're talking about Edmund Kemper. Now, let me just start off by saying that this man was a giant, 6'9" and like 300 and something pounds. Like, so just like everything that we've done, we gotta talk about the family life. Kemper was a middle child. He had a younger sister and an older sister. His family wasn't stable at all. His parents ended up splitting up in 1957. His mom was an alcoholic, very just like emotionally abusive to him, very domineering. And at one point, he ended up actually, I think whenever he was about 10, she ended up making him go live in the basement because she thought that he would force himself on his sisters. And where he lived in the basement, you could only enter in by a trap door, and their dining table was above that trap door. So they would have to move it, and then he would run down there, turn the light on, and then that would be his home. And then he would only come out whenever his mom would let him out. His mother had blamed him for a lot of her problems, a lot of her relationship problems as well, which honestly, like, you shouldn't do that. As a parent, I personally think that you are supposed to do the very best that you can and make sure that you show them love and cherish them. Don't blame it on the kids. Like, there's something that you're doing as well. Not every child is easy to manage. I get that, but still, don't blame. Kemper started showing some early signs of the typical serial killers. He would pop the heads off of dolls. He ended up murdering 2 of the family cats. He ended up hiding that from them for a while too. He was very, very proud of that. I don't know who would be proud to slaughter an animal. I'm not a big fan of cats, which is why I have my dog, but still at the same time, I'm not going to go and murder some cats. He would also play a very weird game with his sisters called the gas chamber, where he would sit there and they'd put a mask over him. He'd start like writhing in pain, and then it would wait until he's dead. During one of the games, they had tried to play teacher, and he was like, oh, well, aren't you gonna, or his sisters were like, aren't you gonna kiss the teacher? And he's like, if I kiss her, I'd have to kill her. What? If my brother said that, I'd be like, sir, we need to go get you some therapy, because that's not. When Kemper was 15, he ended up going to live with his grandparents. Things weren't all that great either. His grandmother wasn't really that nurturing, but, they took care of him. On August 27th, 1964, Kemper ended up shooting his grandmother, waited until his grandfather got back, didn't let him inside the house, and ended up killing him as well. That way he didn't have to see his wife dead. That logic to me is just baffling. He ended up calling his mom and was like, hey, I killed grandma and grandpa. She was like, what the hell's wrong with you? Call the police. Sent to the state hospital. He ended up getting diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, but they also found that he had an IQ of 145. Kemper ended up getting released from the hospital when he was 21, so that was in 1969. While they were going through all these psych evaluations, they realized that Kemper has a lot of pent-up aggression towards his mom. So when he got released, they were like, do not send to go live with mother. Find something else. Have him go in a halfway house. Have him go anywhere but his mom. Guess where they sent him? With his mother. At this time, her 3rd marriage, and she ended up going to live in Santa Cruz and worked for the University of California. At this time, Kemper ended up attending community college, try to help build some social skills, just get, try to be able to be gainfully employed. So then after about 2 years after he moved there, he ended up working for the Department of Transportation in 1971. He did apply to become a state trooper. However, they denied him because he was too tall. His record ended up being expunged because he was a minor at the time that he killed his grandparents, but that wasn't why the troopers were like, no, you can't come. They were just like, you're a giant. We can't fit you in any of our cars. You will intimidate literally everybody. But Kemper really, really wanted to be a cop, so he ended up hanging around all the local cop bars around there, made friends with all of them, and, they thought, he's a gentle giant, no big deal. He did get into an accident after he had like 3 motorcycles, and he ended up using that money. I think he got like $15,000 from the settlement. That would have been like $90,000 today. And he ended up buying a police car, or a car that resembled a police car, so he could, move around and be one of the boys. At this point, he was pretty much unable to work, and it got his mind kind of racing, trying to figure out, all right, what can I do now? And that's whenever he started picking up hitchhikers. I will never hitchhike, ever. Like, I will walk somewhere, but I'm not getting in a car with anybody that I don't know. With that settlement money, he also ended up buying things that he would eventually use for his murder. Ropes, guns, knives, you name it, he bought it. So, yay, cash settlements. At first, he would only pick them up and let them go, but then he eventually started to be like, all right, I can do this, I can do this. First two victims were from Fresno State, Marianne Pesce and Anita Luchesa. The family ended up reporting them missing, and unfortunately, on August 15th, 1972, some hikers were out and they found a human head in the woods. Unfortunately, it was Marianne's. Anita's body was never found. He ended up strangling them and stabbing them, and he did also do horrible, unspeakable things to them after they had already passed. So you would think that, maybe after Kemper had his first two murder victims, he'd probably like, no. But joke's on us, right? Unfortunately, there was a beautiful young girl by the name of Akia Koo who was late for her bus and also late for her dance class, so she figured she would just hitchhike. Now, keep in mind, around this time, it was totally normal for people to hitchhike. Like, it was the hippie movement, everybody was cool, you name it. And unfortunately, she never arrived to her dance class because Kemper was the one who picked her up. In January 1973, Cindy Shaw was shot and killed. Kemper ended up cutting her body into several pieces and ended up throwing them into the ocean. A hand did end up washing up on shore, and then he took her head and buried it in his mother's backyard, and he had turned the head so it was looking at his mother's window, and he thought, see, now someone can actually look up to you. February 5th, 1973, Kemper ended up offering a ride to two girls that were on the University of California campus. The way he had gotten on there, his mother had given him a pass that basically gives all access, and she was part of the faculty. Kemper ended up shooting Rosalind Thorpe and Alice Liu and had them in the car just kind of sitting dead. And he drove past security, and because he had that sticker, security didn't think anything of it. Y'all, I cannot tell you enough. If you have a weird feeling in your gut, trust it. Please trust it. It could literally save your life and others. Unfortunately, their bodies were discovered off of Highway 1 by some hitchhikers. And that wasn't until March of 73. Now, they called Kemper a displacement killer. Kemper finally murdered his mother April of 73. He had come in one night and was like just sitting on the bed, and she was like, oh, I guess you want to talk now. And he was like, no. And he ended up going back. About 4 hours later, he came back and bludgeoned her with a claw hammer. Kemper ended up slitting her throat, took out her vocal cords, tried to shove them down the disposal, but that didn't work because they're way too thick to go down anything other than medical grade disposable biohazard situations. He also ended up throwing darts at his mother's head and just screamed at her for hours and hours. He had a lot of aggression towards her. He ended up inviting his mom's friend over because that would be pretty much the only person that would miss his mom. And he ended up strangling her and then killing her and then dismembering her body. April 23rd, he ended up calling the Santa Cruz police and confessed to everything. He was like, I'm the co-ed killer. They were very, very shocked that Big Ed did all of these things. So Kemper ended up turning himself in, and of course the police were like, there's no way that Big Ed could have done all this. But then he started telling them that only the co-ed killer would know, and they were like, alrighty then, guess we can't trust everybody. Kemper was charged with 8 counts of murder. Yikes. Kemper tried to say that he was not guilty by reason of insanity, but then during all the psychological testing, they were like, yeah, no, he is a sociopath. But no, he's full-blown guilty. He knew exactly what he was doing, so he can't get out of this. Kemper ended up going on trial in October of 73, and then he was finally found guilty in November of 73. When asked what his punishment would be, he said that he had thought long and hard about it since he was a kid, and it should be death by torture. He's asked for the death penalty several times, and he just got 7 consecutive life sentences. Still currently alive today. He's out in the California medical facility where I believe Manson was at, and a couple other people. So a couple things to note with Kemper. He did not have a very nurturing mother. His father was like, peace out. There was a time where he had gotten sent to live with his with his father, and his dad was like, I'm cool, kid. Like, you can stay over there. You got your best case, just like your mom. His father had described living with his mother is worse than suicide missions in wartime, and the atomic bomb testings were nothing to living with this woman. When asked why he had stopped killing, Kemper said it didn't really serve a purpose. It was a pure waste of time, and he had physically gotten exhausted, physically and mentally. He's quoted saying, "Towards the end there, I started feeling the folly of the whole damn thing. And then I was to the point to near exhaustion, near collapse. I just said to hell with it and called it all off." I feel like at this point he was bored, but he also enjoyed the thrill of it. He loved the fact knowing that he was so close with the cops, so they had no idea. Like, whenever he had to call several times to tell them, "Hey, it's me. Like, I killed my parents. I killed my mom. I killed my grandparents. Like, it's me. I did all those things. I killed just all these women." I don't understand how you don't feel that creepiness. Like, even as a kid, I was like, "You're weird. You got to go stay over here." But some people just aren't trained, but you would think that cops would be trained in situational awareness, but people are very manipulative, very conniving. I mean, look at Ted Bundy. Kemper did try to commit suicide while he was in there, and like I said, he requested the death penalty several times. He just gets his life sentences, gets to stew in his mental there. Videos that are out on Kemper, tons of podcasts, so I highly recommend you guys go listen to it. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you want to see next. Bye, y'all.